Hello and welcome to the Australia-New Zealand 4Key Mania Tournament 2025 Week 3 Mappool Showcase. This is going to be a bit of a bump up in difficulty as previous to the last 2 weeks, but nothing our players can't handle. I'm staynoidedd and I am joined by Epic Man 2. How are you feeling about this today, Epic Man?
Hello, hi, yeah. This is a little earlier than the usual time I would usually start commentating each day, but this is looking to be really interesting. Like you said, thank you so much for that introduction right there, Noided. And yeah, so we did just complete the second week of the Australian Nationals, and we still have quite a bit to go through in terms of the matches that we have. We did have about two tiebreaker matches throughout the week earlier, having Anthony Edwards go into tiebreaker against Totally Not Nick, and also none other than GG Snipes against Eplop as well. So yeah.
Yeah, both real nail biters match. I'm actually commentating one of them myself, just seeing the back and forth, taking each other's picks. It was really interesting and awesome to see. And we wish both of those players good luck as we pursue further down this tournament. And yeah, before, as I said, this is quite a bump in difficulty, which I assume Group A players would be more enjoyable. We did see a lot more sweeps happen in Group A compared to Group B. A lot of really fun matches regardless. Really, as you can see here, only 3 players taking 1 point from their respective things. Actually, it's 5, but regardless, a lot of sweeps around. So this next week, or this week, I should say, is going to be a lot more interesting as we kind of just weed out a bit more of the lower seeded players and pit up the higher seeded players against each other. As you can see, first up, we've got Joki, Huhayak, Ray Cancel, G-Mrs. Blixer, and Crimsonite and Ruka. So really banger matches in the winners bracket as we have here. And then as we move on to the lower bracket, we see Abelius and Notori, Duka Duka Nexility, Ainzel and Limo, Gaming Fire YouTube and Demogus, also in their own respective going to be banger matches. And I feel like going to be a lot more closer then. And you want to talk about the Group B bracket, Epic?
Yeah, the Group B bracket is more or less straightforward. Basically, it's definitely quite a different perspective if you were to look at it side by side with Group A, but this one is basically... But Group B does look to have some really competent matches as well. Over in the winners bracket, you got Anthony Edwards going up against Spicy Meme, Seed 1 v Seed 5 on the top bracket alongside Gamto Games and Dame Chocobar. And the just under it, Seed 2 versus Seed 3. Then in the losers bracket, you have Overx, DG9P, facing each other in the losers bracket. Willow, Selsgi facing each other as well. Going to be facing the winner of the former match in the conditionals. And then we also have at the very bottom, Alaminar versus Eplop, seed first and seed 10. And then at the bottom, Totally Not Nick versus Komodo XZ. Go to face the winner of the former as well for conditionals.
Yeah, as stated before, these are the losers brackets. So if any of these players lose, they are out of the tournament and they will be ending their run early. So it's a really do or die situation, especially for these bottom players who are maybe not going to be as used to this jump in difficulty as we had. Speaking of difficulty, I think we can go on with the showcase here. It's got a really exciting maps here to just get set up. Do you want to talk a bit about just the general difficulty and the vibe shift of these different maps, Epic?
Yeah, so these maps in particular, they kind of follow the similar vein of the Mappool prior, although this is going to be ramping up in difficulty a bit as well. We've got quite a bunch of recognizable maps here and there, going to be retaining just about the same format as far as I'm aware. And the first map that we have going to be Rice One is going to be none other than Running in the Night FM84, mapped by Hilotl. This is a map that was originally made for GBC earlier on, so knowing Hilotl and basically the stuff that he's capable of within some of these more speed index stream oriented maps where is very like direction oriented and very control heavy. You can basically see it in this map in general. It's like very variable in terms of the dump usage and also how it flows and snapping in general, alongside incorporating some of these one-handed patterns and trills, etc. Clocking in about just about 3 minutes. This is going to be quite a bit of an endurance test at the same time as well, going to be that of the ramp up from Xiaoping Guo from the previous round as well, which was also a map from GBC.
Yeah, definitely. A common trend that we saw in the previous 2 weeks was that the Mappools were quite short. We saw around the 2 minute, 3 mark. We took that into account, and we really kind of wanted to ramp up the difficulty, not only in how the patterns are layered and how they're played, but also in terms of just how much you're gonna have to be consistent and how much you can hold on in stamina wise. We approach halfway in this map here. It's still quite good, but this like the melody and everything and the chorus really just doesn't hold your hand here, and you will start to lose a bit of consistency as you continue furthering across it. But as you said before, GBC, we're gonna see quite a bit of them, but yeah, they just make really good stuff, and we can just see it replicated here.
Yeah, indeed, especially in some of the older iterations, there's quite a bunch of maps throughout the GBC iterations that really do have quite a bit of rather interesting and unique maps, especially from the Chinese side of things, because the Chinese community just has a lot of really it just has a really active community, especially within like both players, mappers, and just like the tournament scene there in general, with how many nationals that it technically has, really, you know?
Yeah, definitely. They've been a very active tournament scene, and just continuing to just put more pressure onto the player here, as this final chorus is just is continuous 133 BPM, and it really does test your consistency. Dropping a little bit of 200s is really going to be the real test here for our more experienced players. And there's another one, and yeah, that's the end of that really hard map, and a bit of an increase, because if you remember in the previous speed pick, it was, a lot of breaks. You could still maintain the physicality, but here it's full on. But we'll move on into the next map, Rice 2, our hand stream pick, and this is going to be, in my opinion, the biggest increase in difficulty here. We just need to get a little bit more time as to prepare it. Here we are.
Oh goodness, this freaking song.
A lot of you may recognize this song from Metal Gear, what was the specific series called? Yeah, Revengeance, Metal Gear Revengeance. A insane game, to be honest. If you haven't played it, it's quite a roller coaster, but same can be said for this map, which is full 205 BPM, dense jump stream and hand stream, a major increase in difficulty. As we saw in week 2, the hand stream pick was quite easy, very forgiving, a lot more breaks. This one, it's just 2 minutes 43 seconds of pure just pain.
Yeah, exactly. Like, when it comes to this map, it has to be this way. Jamie Christopherson, that's a long surname, by Uis20teen, also known as Uista now. Basically, this map is incredibly straightforward in nature, just going up the fact that it has a lot of these jump street patterns, which are basically essentially the bread and butter for Uis here. Just if you are familiar enough with them as a mapper, you would probably know Uis for quite a plethora of more jump stream centric maps, whether it's like in Rice or also LN, for example. I think most tournaments that are kind of like difficult in general, like, say for example MWC, or even other tournaments, for example, that you see here and there, you'll probably have seen Uis at least make quite a few density maps, which are basically just LN jump stream. This one follows that type of formula, but only embedded within Rice as well. So you see a lot of these one-handed trails, a lot of these really direction-oriented patterns with some anchors thrown in here for extra measure with some hand streams incorporated as well to basically add to the physicality factor that this map basically challenges you on. And yeah, it looks really straightforward for a map in general. So basically your physicality check and also another consistency check as well. This is about 12 seconds shy of the length that we would have seen in the map prior to this one, but it still packs a punch with how long and enduring this basically asks of you, especially for the fact that this is basically just really physical 200 BPM jump string. So yeah.
Yeah, you see as you're talking, a lot of patterns, and it just really layers on the stressing on the hands, and you know, really being difficult here. So maybe a big choke point for players not really comfortable in these kind of maps. As a Neo 992K from our playtester here. Moving on to Rice 3 though, is going to be, in my opinion, the best song. I love this song, Jailbreak by Sakazio. This is our mixed rice pick. So it's sort of like tech, but just a little bit more straightforward. This is hard. And when I say hard, it's really hard. At the very start, it is like a minute or so of kind of just chill, like you just see, you know, a couple notes, nothing too big, just getting warmed up into it. But yeah, the bursts you'll encounter with this chart can really mess you up, and trying to get consistent on this map is going to be a far cry of what you saw in the mixed rice of the last week's pool. So really interesting how players are going to approach this, quite honestly, really difficult chart.
Yeah, indeed, especially when it comes to the map pools rising in difficulty, especially on the spectrum that some of us map poolers would have set to begin with. It basically does go to show that a lot of what you see in each map pool is just basically becomes really just all the more difficult as the weeks go on. Just like the fact that you're basically already used to one side of the map pool, but then the next week you basically just realize, oh god, oh goodness me, it's actually way harder than I was expecting. You can see here, this is like a little more jump stream oriented, kind of similar to that we've seen of the previous map, but less physical, and it's also more technical in terms of how it incorporates some pretty discomforting flams like in the middle of a swung jump stream. So definitely something to take into consideration. This is 3 minutes long, so basically remaining around the average length of the maps, of the two maps previous to this as well. And yeah, it still continues on this rather technical approach to the song itself in general.
Yeah, but as we get into really the main meat and potatoes of this chart, a lot of graces, some mini jacks, and really awkward timings that, meat and potatoes, chicken and rice if some people like that, but you know, but yeah, these mini jacks.
Meat and potatoes are just like really good in general. I like that shit, you know?
Yeah, it's a good analogy. But yeah, these jump streams and these bursts and like these very techy, and it can really catch you by surprise because like the first half of the map is like, you know, relatively easy. You can maintain high act, but it really picks up the pace almost immediately in the last kind of half of the chart. So you really do need to be prepared for that and make sure you don't drop any disastrous inputs. But that is to be seen because you're going to be in a tournament match and you're definitely going to miss at some point, unless your name is Jockey, of course.
Of course, yeah, it's always going to be Jockey. But yeah, this is going to be going into the ending of the map where it basically just showcases relatively straightforward patterns. It does have kind of this vein of the jump streams earlier, but it incorporates a lot of these a really intense flurry of Majax as well on top of that. So that's really going to be a very precise pattern that you really need to try your best hacking. Ignore that one good at the end. That was
no one good. I will say I did the replay for this. I was very mad, but I did not want to play it again because the intro is so difficult. Yes, thank you, streamer, for the funny accuracy number. As we move on into the Rice 4 pick, we are no longer going to be seeing the Jack focused pick anymore, and it's going to be straight core Jack. So if you're a core Jack lover, you're definitely going to be wanting to protect this pick. Really straightforward 4-2, 4-2, 4-1, 4-1 core Jacks, but the low BPM of 104 BPM could just get you a little bit more uncomfortable in hitting them, as it's just maybe a bit slow for you to be hitting normally of what you would do your average BPM. But yeah, some jump shows sprinkled in here to throw you off a bit, but this is a relatively safe and probably the easiest to act out of everything on the pool so far.
Yeah, indeed. From what I can see of this map so far, it's basically just what you usually expect of most core Jack maps in general, which are not trying to just be out there in terms of structure alone, where it's just like just straight core Jack. You have basically your fair share of emphasis in like the places where it matters. For example, here each beat as it goes on, and it definitely reminds me of some of Sakasagi's maps as well in terms of how they're structured as well, where it had a lot of these anchors and a lot of these jump anchors as well that you basically just need to control alongside some of these really harsh jump trolls as well for additional emphasis. The map is a little shorter than all the other maps on the contrarian. 2 minutes, just shy of that, just 6 seconds shy of that marker. Oh, my pronunciation. And also the OD HP values are also buffed a bit as well to account for the lack of density in the map itself, or at least like the lack of raw physicality, so that it basically just starts accounting for your raw consistency alone, which is going to matter a lot in picks like these.
Yeah, well, this is relatively a straightforward and almost core Jack slob in a way kind of map. Don't worry about that either. You see it. That's a common thing.
Like, it's brutally honest.
But the OD here is really what's gonna trip a lot of players up, especially if they're not used to the relatively low BPM for core Jack. But we will move on to our final rice pick of this week, and a very household name if you've played any tech chart, and this is obviously going to be a tech chart. I like XD's insane Lawn Wake 9. This has been OD scaled down because originally it was OD 9.1, and that is way too unforgiving for a tech pick, but thankfully with the permission of I Like XD, we have re-uploaded it and made the OD 8, but the patterns stay the exact same.
Yeah, especially as what you'd expect with I Like XD being a bit of a household name when it comes to at least some tournaments, or if you also additionally pay attention to other games, for example, Flash Revolution, for example. I know some people in the staff team are kind of into that game as well. It basically just has a lot of these really bursty, really accuracy-oriented patterns as well. As you know, a good majority of FFR mappers are kind of more like, when it comes to their approach in mapping, they kind of tend to follow the song more than basically just trying to add onto it. Like, for example, how you would see most people in this game, for example, just dump songs in particular. For here, you get a really like raw approach to the sounds in the song as well, as you'd expect from the Flash Bulb as well, which basically has like, I mean, everyone and their moms has heard of this before. They literally like, wait, did they miss? What?
Don't mind that miss. Yeah, I did this one as well. You're seeing a common trend where I kind of just don't play the game. Basically, this is kind of your bursty pick, and as you can see in the replay there, it can trip you up and it can just tank your score. This was a V1SS if it was not for that one unfortunate miss, but it really just goes to show that this more modern type of I Like XD chart, this was made around 2021, is a lot more balanced. A lot of his older stuff is got a lot more diff spikes and unfair anchors, but this one's a bit more restrained, but still, as you said before, with the raw expression of the song, really just like putting it into perspective well of how I Like XD approaches these tech patterns.
Yeah, indeed. Where you have a lot of these jump stream patterns going into this ending here, and it's basically it. The map is really burst oriented, and with this one being a little more on the technical side, it really does make up for the amount of role skill maps we have in particular, trying to complement that of rice free, so there's a fair balance. And that's basically it for the rice maps we have. So now we can move on to the rest of the map pool, starting with your coordination pick for LN1. This is going to be none other than No One Yes Man Muke by Hightex. 2 minutes of what's going to be coordination.
Yeah, Hightex, established, ranked, and regular mapper who's been playing this game for quite a while. This is quite a difficult coordination, a lot more kind of just densely packed and jump stream oriented than Birdbrain was in last week's pool. But yeah, you will see here that it just goes on a bit of the grace side, as just these little tiny, not really I'd say bursts, but just these patterns here can really trip you up and give you a lot of grace if you're not careful on how you approach it. I feel like a lot of these Group B players, this would be the go-to ban. This is kind of a no-brainer. It'll be tough. It'll be difficult. Only 7.3, so the accuracy isn't too bad, so you might get a good ratio going, but in general, the great count will pile up, and if you're not comfortable and want to be more consistent, I'd say avoid this one. But please at least do give it a go, because it is a really good chart. That's why we chose it.
Absolutely. I mean, it goes without saying as well. We just pick a lot of we don't really go out of our way to try and pursue a lot of customs, so we may as well just use a bunch of banger maps that everyone's already made in the past, and this is definitely no exception as well. This one going to kind of be what you'd expect of like more broken jump stream oriented LN coordination. You can definitely see it with how the patterns kind of just flow when you need to try and control your release timings a lot more intricately in a way. And you can and it's definitely a very common thing with a lot of Hightex's more LN coordination oriented maps as of recent as well. If you haven't been to tournaments like MWC, for example, where they have made like quite a bunch of customs, and they were basically just trying to simulate that of more release heavy oriented coordination maps while being relatively fast in nature in terms of the song. So
yeah,
that's
that was
one.
There's a short map too, only 2 minutes, the shortest in the pool so far. So if you want a quick and easy pick while you're trying to bank on, like, you know, someone missing, definitely put this in mind. But we move on to LN2, which is going to be our density pick by the very own Miss Darion. Miss Darion is probably one of the most recognized players and mappers in Media World Cup, being a player of Thailand, as well as recently just picking up the editor to map some of their charts. You may have seen they did some grand final stuff last year, and it was so banger. And yeah, this is quite a well-established map. It already does have a ranked. I feel like it's ranked, but this is just uprated to 1.2 just to get the density in a bit more. So it is 162, and it is, despite it being 3.93 stars, this isn't the density for no reason, as this can get real wacky here. As you can just see, a little, just like these Grace LN releases really can trip you up, but it shouldn't be too bad, as you kind of can just get into the rhythm of things. And yeah, just your average density pick, really.
Yeah, the map does feature a lot of these really straightforward LN jumpsters, as we have been alluding to throughout the map so far, going into the back of the chart, but it does actually incorporate some tech in here as well, so gonna be a little more on the intrusive side, but it's basically just enough to at least add some additional flavor and some extra flair into the map itself, where if you're going to be facing off against some people on a map pool like this, then you may as well just pick out some maps that you can easily choke on. And I feel this map would make for a really solid choice in that department as well, similar to that of LN1 from earlier, just because of how it incorporates a lot of tech, even in places where you don't like inherently notice it. For example, you realize that there are some staggered releases, and there's also some really fast bursts incorporated in the middle of patterns as well. Just whenever you have at least some small breather of rice patterns, you just you at least just have to keep your eyes on the board for the good majority of the map. Otherwise, this is basically where you can just find a lot of these insane choke points that you just don't want to find, especially within Group B, which, you know, we have been saying would probably not find maps like these like the most feasible for competition. But I mean, I don't know. I'm open for a debate. I'm open for debates.
I'd tend to agree with you, avoiding that debate here. I share similar sentiments as yeah, it is quite a short chart, kind of like as we've seen in the week 1 and 2 map pool, around the 2-minute 30 mark. But yeah, what you really want to watch out for is the ratio here, as it is relatively comfortable. But if you do kind of like just don't pay too much attention to those releases, it can really add up and just ruin your match. But we will move on into our final LN3 pick of the week. The Peachy Key, which is a song that gives me PTSD. I'm not going to lie. Playing this in my mind is a bit of a struggle, those who really know. But yeah, mapped by Vietnamese mapper Mappool, who's been around and in the mapping scene for around like 4 to 5 years, and really shows just how good they are with these kind of more wildcard and unpredictable ways that they can approach to mapping.
This song gives me PTSD, not because of my mind, but this song was originally made for Project Sekai, and I somehow still play that game, even if it's been like, what, 3 years since I started? But I digress. Like, this map, the Peachy Key Iowa mapped by Mike Leak, this is basically what you'd expect. Mike Leak is a very technical and raw mapper when it comes to LN intact, when it comes to more technical LN in general. This one is a map that comes from one of the more recent Vietnamese nationals. And from what it looks, it does incorporate a lot of these really more technical patterns combined with the more complex nature of the song itself, where it incorporates a lot of these like really intricate features as well. For example, how a lot of these patterns are just graced and flammed as well. It really basically just spells out that you need to try a lot more to actually control what you're hitting in the map, because I feel compared to LN1 and LN2, this is a lot more technical. Basically, taking some of the more technical aspects in LN2 that are more hidden, and basically just cracks it up to 100 on this one.
Yeah, this song just in general kind of being a bit of a nightmare for all rhythm game players, as all the maps are just a little unfair sometimes. But yeah, we just end this here, and a lot more of these kind of jack-oriented patterns, which I think will really mess players up in the long run, because those are really difficult to hit. So if you're like, you've been playing those like kind of broken streams for a while, and then you get into that jack pick, and that transition is really difficult. But I believe in our players, and that will do it for our LN pool of this week, as we go into our generic hybrid 1, another banger song in my opinion with routing.
Hey. You love to see it. I think pretty much everyone and their moms know what this song is if you've at least been on Mania for a bit, like, or at least if you know about, who's the guy that ranked this freaking song? Was it Rivals or Toe? Wait, it's been like years since I played the map. I don't remember off the top of my head.
It is.
Oh wait, no, it's gone.
Yeah, it's certainly a very well-known song in the Mania community and the wider OSU community. But yeah, we have the replay by Frankston line. Those who know, never go on the Frankston line. But this is a bit more of a simple chart. We don't call it generic for no reason. Nothing really too out of the park to trip you up. But it really is just kind of making sure you keep those LNs on top of yourself. We go into like those little bit of those bursts and those stairs, kind of just showing that, you know, it can be a bit rude at times, but generally is a lot more easy to control and pace yourself here, only being 144 BPM. So it's quite a different experience compared to some previous hybrids that we've had on this tournament. But yeah, this is another really short map, clocking in under 2 minutes. So another one of those maps where it's kind of like a one and done, where you kind of want to see if your opponent will miss, and just kind of banking on if you can combo well for the Group B players, and for the Group A players, kind of just seeing is this ratio going to be good enough to further on get the point. But yeah, this is still a banger song, and yeah, it's just very simple and straightforward.
Absolutely. I think you've pretty much taken all the words out of my mouth here as we go into the ending here, where you basically just have that final inner column pattern where you just need to watch out for the trill at the end. Please, please do not miss on that, because if you do, I'm going to lose like 10 pounds off my bank account. Like, it's just
Frankston line with a nice double S. Maybe you should go to the Frankston line. The new metro tunnel is open, so maybe go check that out. But we head into Hybrid 2 now, which is our custom map by the man himself, Oct4, who is just carrying this tournament so far. This is our tech pick so far, and it is such a vibe. It is such a good song, such well charted as well. I will say the ending can be a bit tricky, as it kind of just increases in difficulty, but it is a really good experience, I think, for all players to at least put their hat in the ring to try this, because this can really be a pleasurable experience. And yeah, Oct4 does it again with an absolute banger custom map for this week.
Indeed. Oct4 is definitely someone in general within this tournament alone that's been carrying, has been doing a lot of the heavy lifting in order to ensure that, this tournament comes back after quite a while, actually, indeed. And you can definitely see it as well. This one going to be the one custom map that we have in this map pool. This one is going to be following that of Rise 5 as we have seen earlier, where it's a lot more technical in nature, albeit this one is a little more abstract in terms of its approach, where it basically has some of these dumps, as you can see, that are really like precise in terms of how they're formatted, with a lot of graces thrown in as well for additional measure. But you also have a lot of these LN focused flams as well that you need to try controlling on top of that in general. So I feel like that alone just makes this map a lot more interesting in nature. And I definitely feel like this is going to be something that I feel a lot of players would probably struggle on. You have a lot of these really Fola-esque patterns as well, in terms of how you have to control these flams at the same time as hitting rice notes that are just slightly delayed by a few milliseconds in question. And yeah, this map is also relatively short as well, clocking in at 2 minutes of length. And yeah, as you'd expect from majority of Cola songs, they are kind of really futuristic in terms of how the sound design's well done, but basically just gets the job done with how the map is represented in question.
It really does pick up, though, on those like last quarter. Really, you did see that those just holds in and on the same column and the same hand, it can really mess you up, and honestly miss even probably the more experienced Group A players if they're not ready for it. So I do recommend hammering in and practicing this map, just so you know what you're getting yourself into here. But that does it for all of our non-SV picks. So we'll move on to the SV, which is going to be so evil. It's such an evil chart. Do you want to get started with it as we kind of get over here? This is the definition of stop and start slow jam. As you can see here, the replayer is tapping on those off notes just to get the timing themselves. The whole gimmick of this chart is to just memorize the melody and play.
Bro, this freaking map in particular just feels so discriminative by nature. It's really just like... Dude, I remember I had to play this in a tournament like over a year ago in the Malaysian Nationals, because for some reason they decided that non-Malaysian players can play as well for like one iteration. And bro, I had to learn this for semifinals just to get thrashed on by Everywhere at the time. And like the map itself is like literally so goofy. It's just like what are you even reading at this point? It's just like, this is a map that was also taken from the Chinese Nationals in 2023, where they used to have quite a bunch of some of these really funny reading patterns. And oh my god, this freaking part is so annoying. How is Potassium even playing this, bro? Like, bro, this is...
Yeah. It's quite the map. We decided to be a little bit more funny with our SV pickings here, and as you can just see, ghost tapping along the beat just to get a little bit of sense of which part of the chart is going to be playing. It's just the stop and start is just so cruel, and some slow jack sound jacks is like this one exactly. You have to. There is a way to play it, but it's just you gotta memorize it, and it is the cruelest bit ever. I assume people will definitely be banning this as it just teleports as well. It is the most unfair chart I think we've had so far, but that's what makes it all the more interesting and exciting. So really, if you do want to have a fun time, protect this SV, because damn, it's gonna be banned a lot.
I mean, honestly, like, at this point, I would understand it getting banned anyways, just because, like, honestly, if I'm gonna be in a map, if I'm gonna be facing against an opponent in a 1v1 and there's like 2 SV maps, with this one being one of them, I'm definitely banning this, just because, like, if they somehow, like, have a very solid advantage on it, where they, to a point where they get 998k on this, I'm literally crapping myself immediately. Like, this shit is just not feasible, but...
Yeah, it is.
Actually, wait, I just realized, like, can I just comment on how Potassium got like 97 perfects on this? Like,
dude,
what?
and he isn't even on Flashlight. Just think about it. He's kind of the GOAT. But if you really do want to practice this, and I really urge players to practice this, go ahead and try to snipe the SV GOAT. I dare you. But yeah, it is quite an insane feat to do, and it is just reminiscent of those BMS style charts where were just super unfair and no one was, like, holding back. But that does it for all the pickable charts that you can ban and protect. There's, however, only one chart left. You can't ban it, you can't protect it, and in some matches it will be inevitable. It is, of course, the tiebreaker, and this is going to be a good one. Lau coming in here with Chimimorio Bako, played by our very own GFX artist and GOAT of Osumania, Bounter.
Yeah, this is also a map that I recognize from the Malaysian tournament from last year. This is a relatively straightforward map. This was the round of 16 tiebreaker in that tournament, to be specific. So bringing it back here for the third week or so, this is basically, I would assume, quarterfinals level, right? Within this tournament.
Yeah, definitely. This is, I think, the first 5-star of the pool so far. So it is really going to be a lot more difficult in general. But it's got everything. It's got Rice, it's got Jax, it's got tech, it's got releases, it's got everything. But yeah, this tiebreaker is going to be a little bit shorter than Train of Thought. Train of Thought was like 5.5 minutes. This is 4 minutes 17. So definitely a lot less wriggle room to make mistakes on, and more chances to people kind of just get away with the lead. We did see, though, in both of our tiebreakers that we had last week, it wasn't relatively close, because even though both of them got, both of the players got to tiebreaker, it was kind of just apparent who was a bit more better at the density here. But with this week 3, I assume that if we ever do get to tiebreaker, it is going to be a lot closer, which is going to be interesting to see, because this map is really fun to play and really, really good. It was used in a previous tournament. I forgot which tournament, but it is just so good. Such a banger.
Yeah, this is definitely like we mentioned earlier, the map is a little shorter than your run-of-the-mill usual tiebreakers in tournaments, where they'll usually be around the 5-minute marker. This one is a little shorter, clocking at 17 seconds past the 4-minute mark. although it still does what it can to pack a punch regardless of what the scenario, where it just has a lot of these really technical patterns you've seen earlier throughout the map, where for the initial half of it incorporates quite a bunch of these really fast hybrid 1-esque patterns that you'd usually see in a consistency hybrid, alongside incorporating a lot of these really fast bursts as well, alongside some of these really linear density streams as well on top of that, to basically add for additional fuel to try and see whether players can choke out on it. Because this is definitely one of those picks where it would basically mean all the more in a match to make it important. Oh, sorry?
Hex, this is the tiebreaker.
Well, yeah, like, I mean, even that goes without saying, but I just state the obvious like way too much, I guess. I don't know.
Bounty using 5% of his power here as he approaches the last quarter of the map. As you saw previously, it did pick up quite a bit in density around that halfway mark, with just a lot of those jump shows with little LNs in them and those hand streams, which are 200 BPM, the highest we've seen so far on the tournament, and they're very dense themselves. But yeah, this is really established to be kind of the a bit less. I'd say train of thought is dense, and this is a little less dense just because it gives a little leeway with some breaks, but generally harder patterns as well. And yeah, just we finally close off here. 500 combo remaining, and it still doesn't let go. Like, this whole chart really gets it going, and as you can see here, those, like, 1-3 column little split trills really can mess you up if you're not hitting them fast enough. But yeah, that is basically the end of the chart, and I'm really excited to see if we'll ever get here and how close this will actually be. So stay tuned as we head into this week, starting from Saturday, ending on Sunday, maybe some matches Friday, depending on schedule. But yeah, that was the week 3 map pool. A lot of bangers, a lot of increases in difficulty, I must say. But I think especially the Group A players are going to enjoy this a lot more. And yeah, the SV, I really hope people enjoy playing it. I've been staynoidedd. Unless we have any other closing remarks. Do you have any closing remarks, or?
Didgeridoo.
Didgeridoo. That's how we do it here. Anyway, that has been the week 3 map pool. Nothing else to say. We've already went over the bracket. We've already went over the maps. Happy practicing. All the good things. I've been staynoidedd, joined here by the lovely Epic Man 2, and we will see you this weekend.
Toodaloo.
Bye bye.